Hello, this is Dr. David Kordowitz and welcome to Solidworks. Today we're going to be discussing how to create two-dimensional drawings from your three-dimensional parts and assemblies. Let's begin. Today I've loaded in a bracket from a CSWA practice exam. This bracket is a three-dimensional model which assembles together into a robotic type arm. The bracket, as you can see, has been modeled as a part and is made out of 6061 alloy. Today we're going to look at how to create a two-dimensional technical drawing of this part. The first step in creating such a drawing is to go to your File menu and go File, Make Drawing from Part. When we do this, we're going to get a menu of different paper sizes. You can pick whatever paper size you want. Please be aware that when you are doing the tutorial on doing drawings, the tutorial will automatically select a paper size, even though the tutorial says that you must select a paper size yourself. If this happens, just ignore that step and continue forward. For our purposes today, I'm going to choose an A4 landscape paper. A4 is a relatively small, right around letter size. We can go larger if we want to, but we'll show you some of the tricks as we continue. Landscape allows us to have everything laid out how we normally would. So if I click OK, I'm going to get my page. This page starts out with a title block in the bottom right corner of the page. And this title block is currently only showing the Q4 bracket, which is the name of the file which we're creating the drawing from. We have a few options here of how to set things up. One option is we can go ahead and pick one of our standard views from the right side of the screen here. If we pick one, we just grab it and drag it out onto our drawing, and when we release, we will get a menu here on the left in the command manager. This menu will allow you to set different parameters and things about that given iteration. If we then drag in a direction in another direction, it will automatically create an orthogonal view in that dimension. So if we do something like this, and you can put one over here, and what we'll do is place that one, and then I'm going to hit the escape key. Once we do that, we can then grab the box for this one and move it up so that it is not sitting in the middle of our block. And this is one possibility. We can do things with this angle one if we wanted to, say, for example, come over to the side menu and select shaded so it'll look like it actually will look in our final product, or we can choose shaded with lines so we can see our edges. But typically when we're working in drawings, we're going to use our hidden lines removed. The thing is that all drawings are going to be watermarked, and typically if you use a model based, so if you use a three-dimensional type element, the watermark will be in the center of your page, where if you use a two-dimensional sketch type or hidden lines removed type setup, it will be at the bottom of the page. This watermark is indelible, and no matter what you do, you cannot remove it in professional versions of SolidWorks. So what that means is if you're going to create new parts and assemblies in SolidWorks, if you intend to use them for commercial purposes, do not create them in a student edition of SolidWorks. I am now going to clear our screen again and return to our raw drawing. So I'm going to go and click on each of these boxes, hit the delete key and select yes. And we're going to look at a different way of assembling our drawing. So another way we can do is go to our View Layout tab up in the Command Manager. If we do this, we can select Standard 3 View. You then will select the drawing that you're going from or the model that you're going from and click the check mark. Doing this will place a Standard 3 View, which means a front view, a top view, and a right view on the screen. However, if you notice, the right view here is currently located in the title box. However, if I grab this to move it, what you'll notice is I can move it side to side, but if I attempt to move it up and down, it's not going to change. If I move this one up and down, if you notice, it's going to move the right view and the top view together. So if we want to make this more viable, what we're going to do is take this front view, drag it down in the corner here, and then take this top view and drag it up. We can then move this one out to give it a little more room. The next step here is going to be to dimension our parts to communicate how they are designed. So there's a few different ways to do this. One of the ways is going over into our annotation and selecting model items. If we do that, the system is going to automatically try to place all of our measurements. So we can click that and we select our mark for drawing, we can select our not mark for drawing, and we can select whatever it is we need. We click OK, it's going to tell us no model was inserted, yes, import from option. So once we select the model items, it is going to automatically place the dimensions. These dimensions are often incomplete or missing individual dimensions that are required. It is your responsibility at this point to figure out what it's missed and manually go back and insert those dimensions. Most of us don't really like doing this because it's easier to figure out a system to go through all the dimensions than it is to go back and figure out what's missing. So let's backtrack, and I'm going to hit Control Z here to undo our dimensions, and we're going to do this manually using Smart Dimension. So we can choose the Smart Dimension, and this works the same as the Smart Dimension does in any other part of Solidworks. Now I'm going to zoom in with my mouse wheel so that I can see very closely the parts here. If I click, you can notice that a little blue pie comes up, and this left upper right hand corner is highlighted orange. What that is that's an automatic leader placement for your dimension. So right now it's saying a radius of 1. If I move over to the right here, it just moves the leader around to predetermined spots that are designed to look the best. So let's select this one, and that puts that one there. Now I can click this line here, and we get the same thing, except there's only two halves, one up, one down. In this case, I'm going to select up, and we can work our way around the drawing in order to get all of our dimensions. We can do this in all the dimensions. So for example, we can get the Smart Dimension here and place it there, and the Smart Dimension here and place it here. So this allows us to get information about our drawing and to place it where it is most useful to someone who is trying to machine this part. To look at some of the other critical views, I've gone ahead and created a tortuous path model, which I will show you now. This tortuous path model contains a path that goes from end to end in this block. Looking at the block the way it is, you can't necessarily tell what's going on inside. When you're working in a 3D part or assembly, you can always use your section view, which will allow you to see what's inside. The section view simply creates a plane, which is in any arbitrary direction. Right now it's showing it in the front plane, but if I want it to change over to the top plane, I can simply grab this circular one piece and rotate it, or I can simply just come over to the left-hand menu and hit top plane. Now, in our case, our top plane actually isn't the middle of our block. It's actually offset from our top plane. So what we're going to do is go back to the front plane, and we are going to choose our tortuous path location based on that. To translate up and down, you simply grab the arrow and you can pull it in any direction you want. Now, to straighten things out, I'm going to go ahead and use the left-hand property manager to set up our plane. So as I drag up, I'm going through, and now you can see this tortuous path. Now that you can see it, if you wish to freeze this and keep it this way, just simply press the check mark on your control manager window. So click the check mark, and now it's going to make this part have a slice through it and allow you to see what's going on inside. At any time, if you want to undo this, simply click the section view again, and it will go back to normal. Now, for drawings, this becomes an interesting thought. We can use a bunch of different views to allow us to see how things work. So let's go ahead and create a drawing. So I will click Make Drawing from Part. I will choose my ANSI A4 landscape and click OK. Now we can start placing our views. You can do a standard 3 view, however, for this particular model, that may not be the best view to use. So in this model, we definitely want to see the front plane, and we definitely want to see the top plane. So we're going to put that there. Now we want to see the left or right plane. I believe that is going to be the right plane, but we want the left view. We don't really get much out of this catty corner type thing. So we can just hit the escape key to stop moving our parts, and we can click on the view palette and select the left plane and drag it into our drawing. It will snap to the other part above it. So once we release that, we now have our common views. Now, since this isn't standard, nor is most drawing standard, we can then use in our annotation tab the note feature, so we can say that this right here is our right view, and this down here, and you must hit escape between your view settings, otherwise it will copy the same text, and we can say that this is our left view. And then if you want to annotate the other views, that is perfectly okay. You can use the leader bar if you want to make it have a leader. You can set all sorts of settings over here, including tolerances, GD&T type settings, as well as things like broken out leaders and things like that to make your life better. Now, this doesn't tell us much about what's going on inside, so I'm going to go ahead and add a second sheet. To do that, you come down where it says Sheet 1, and you click the little icon next to it that is Add Sheet. This will create you a new blank sheet that is the second page in your drawing package. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to go to our view palette and we're going to insert our top view. So our top view is not the most interesting view in the world. In addition, I want to insert our front view. So again, not the most interesting view in the world, but now we can use some of our tools to be able to see what's going on. So the first thing we're going to do is go to our view layout, and I'm going to choose to put in a section view, and I want to do this on the horizontal. So if we come down a little bit, we can see that we have the horizontal, we have vertical, we have 2 different angles. But we're going to do a horizontal section. And so if we come into our drawing, you'll see that you have this bar that can move up and down. So let's choose somewhere around the center, and we click. And what that's going to do is give us a new drawing which contains the information that's along this line. So that's as if we just did our section and cut our part in half. Now the grayed in, the hash marks are notating where there's material, and the white is where there's none. So this allows us to see inside the part. We can also then go in and use things like our smart dimension to get things like curvatures and distances and all of those sort of things that become really, really important as we continue forward. Now, if you want to see something complicated, so for example, and I'm going to move this section view, we can move this view pretty easily simply by clicking and dragging, as long as we're not in smart dimension, by clicking and dragging it. However, in this case, it wants to keep it vertical. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my top view. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to move it left so that we have a little more space in our drawing. So if we want to see the detail here, we can go into our view layout and we can choose a detail view, which is going to allow us to draw a circle around some part of our drawing. So let's say that. It's then going to put a circle that it's going to annotate, in this case B, and we're going to get a drawing that is a zoomed in version of that particular location. So this allows us to get more fine measurements and more fine detail for those of you who need it in your parts. So I'm going to create another sheet now and place another top view onto this page. So we choose our top view and we insert this onto the page. Now we have the ability to do a number of other things. So one of the things we can do is we can do what's called a crop view. What a crop view allows us to do is cut part of our material apart and be able to look very, very closely at what's going on. So let's say I draw a rectangle here that goes around this corner. Now I can come back to view layout and I can choose crop view. And what it's going to do is it's going to cut out everything in our part that's away from that rectangle. So now we end up with this rectangle, which isn't all that interesting, but that is our crop view because it's that specific area with which has been cut out. Now, if I undo this, we can go back to our before our crop view, although I guess it's not going to let me right now. So I'll just delete this and insert another copy of it. So now let's take a look at some of our other view tools. So one of the ones we have is our removed section. So that allows you to draw on here, or you can do two parts of your geometry. And what it's going to do is break out part of your geometry, although it is not obvious because this is a square. So it allows you to remove a piece of your geometry from your final drawing. In addition, we have things like broken out section drawings. When you do a broken out section, it allows you to draw a spline, which you can draw like how you want. However, it must be a closed polygon. Once it's closed, we can then say, okay, well, we want to cut 10 millimeters into it. Click OK, and what it's going to do is cut a hole in there that is 10 millimeters deep and allow you to see everything below that point. This is actually a relatively useful view if you have things below the surface. If I right click and hit Edit Definition, I can now increase this to say 25, which will allow us to actually see our tortuous path. When I click OK, you can now see the tortuous path in that location. This allows you to see small details that are covered by other parts. In addition to all of this, we have our break view, which is for very large objects, allows you to basically break them up. So for example here, if we select this drawing, we get these zigzag lines, and I can put that in there and that in there like that, and it shrinks our part down. But we still can still do things like get the length of the entire part with that section removed, so that allows us to make things fit on pages that might not otherwise fit. Other than that, those are the primary views you're going to use. So you're going to use broken out sections, you're going to use section view, you're going to use removed sections, and you're going to use details when you're creating different objects. Now, another thing to note here is in this leader, you also have that zigzag telling you that there's a broken out section in there. So again, or break view in there. So this is the basics of converting your three-dimensional models and assemblies into drawings. Now for assemblies, it works exactly the same way. In most cases, you put the entire assembly on one sheet, and then you start and put a separate sheet for each part. I'd like to thank you for your time learning today about drawings, and see you next time.